Guess what comes to mind when you think of Jimin from BTS? Probably that golden voice, the smooth dance moves, or that smile that melts armies all over the world, right? But what if I told you that behind all those stages and spotlights, Jimin actually has another identity that almost nobody talks about? He's one of the youngest, richest shareholders in South Korea. He's not just popular on the music charts, he's also sitting on a list of the wealthiest people under the age of 30. And what makes this even more interesting is that he's not alone. Two other BTS members made the exact same list. Curious how an idol ends up holding stock worth hundreds of billions of rupiah? Stick around till the end, because in this video we're breaking down everything, where the shares came from, the exact numbers, and why this is proof that BTS isn't just a music phenomenon, but a financial one too. Let's get into it. So here's the story. Recently, a South Korean corporate data research firm called CEO Score released its annual report. This report contains a list of the top 100 individual shareholders in South Korea, specifically in the under 30 age category. This isn't just some random list either. CEO Score is a fairly respected institution in Korea because they regularly analyze corporate data, including who holds significant shares in companies listed on the Korean Stock Exchange. Now here's what got fans and netizens worldwide buzzing. Three very familiar names showed up on that list: Jimin, V, and Jungkook, often referred to as the Magne line of BTS. All three of them landed at exactly the same spot, ranked 28th out of the 100 names on that list. Yes, the exact same rank. And this isn't a coincidence. There's a technical reason behind it, which we'll get into shortly. But since this video's headline focuses on Jimin, we'll spotlight him a bit more, even though this is technically an achievement shared by three members at once. It's fascinating how one business decision made years ago can have such a massive impact today. Alright, now let's get into the numbers that might make your jaw drop. According to data released by CEO Score on December 24th, 2025, Jimin, V, and Jungkook each hold 68,385 shares of HYB Corporation, the parent agency that manages BTS. The value of that many shares comes out to around 21.4 billion Korean won, or roughly 247 to 251 billion rupiah when converted. And keep in mind, that's just from stock ownership alone, not counting income from music royalties, endorsements, concerts, or any other business ventures they're involved in. Here's what's even crazier. The value of these shares actually saw a significant jump compared to the previous year. In 2024, their shares were worth around 13.2 billion won, but by the end of 2025 that number jumped to 21.4 billion won. That's an increase of about 8.2 billion won, or roughly 95 to 96 billion rupiah, in just 1 year. This jump wasn't because they bought more shares, by the way. The number of shares they hold has stayed exactly the same year after year. What changed was the market price of the stock. So this increase is purely due to HYB Corporation's valuation and performance strengthening throughout 2025. This is really important to understand, because it means their wealth grew not because they were actively buying or selling stock, but because they trusted and held on to the assets they already had, while the company's overall value kept climbing. This is a concept that's actually taught a lot in the world of finance: buy and hold. Now, this is the part one find most interesting. How exactly does a K-pop idol end up owning this much company stock? The answer goes back to 2020. At that time, HYB Corporation, the agency behind BTS, was preparing for its IPO on the Korean Stock Exchange. Ahead of this major milestone, the founder and chairman of HYB, Bang Si-hyuk, made a decision that many consider incredibly visionary and full of appreciation. He gifted a total of 478,695 common shares to all 7 BTS members equally, as a form of recognition for their massive contribution in building HYB into the giant company it is today. Split evenly among the 7 members: RM, Jin, Suga, jhope, Jimin, V, and Jungkook. Each member received 68,385 shares at that time. Just imagine that moment. Back in 2020, HYB had just gone public, and nobody could really be sure how large the company's valuation would eventually become. But that decision by Bang Si-hyuk turned out to be one of the most profitable moves for the members, especially for those who chose not to sell their shares. And this is where the different strategies each member took really start to show. This is what makes a lot of people curious. If all 7 members received shares back in 2020, why did only 3 of them, Jimin, V, and Jungkook, end up on the list of the top 100 richest shareholders under 30? The answer comes down to 2 factors: age and personal decisions about the shares. First, the age factor. This list is specifically for the under 30 category. Now, another BTS member, Suga, actually holds the exact same number of shares, 68,385, worth the exact same amount. But he didn't make the list. Why? Because he's already 32 years old, so he automatically doesn't qualify for the under 30 category set by CEO Score. Second, the factor of personal decisions regarding their shares. It turns out not all BTS members chose to hold on to all of their shares. Some members, like Jin, jhope, and RM, reportedly sold a portion of their shares on the open market back in 2021. Because of that, their share count and ownership value ended up different from the Magne line. Meanwhile, Suga, Jimin, V, and Jungkook chose to hold on to all of their shares without selling a single one over the past 5 years. This is what kept their ownership value solid and even growing as HYBE's stock price kept rising. So if you combine these 2 factors, being under 30 and choosing not to sell any shares, the only ones who meet both criteria are Jimin, V, and Jungkook. That's why the 3 of them show up at the exact same rank, 28th, with identical share values. It's actually a pretty interesting lesson about patience in investing too. Those who resisted the urge to sell their assets ended up being the ones who benefited the most once the company's value skyrocketed later on. Now let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Ranking 28th out of 100 is actually a fairly high position, especially when you compare it to everyone else on the overall list without any age restrictions. At the very top of South Korea's overall richest shareholders list, with no age limit, sits Lee Jae-yong, chairman of Samsung Electronics, whose stock assets are valued in the tens of trillions of won. This really puts into perspective just how massive corporate wealth can get in South Korea. Meanwhile, HYBE's own founder, Bang Si-hyuk, was reported to be ranked around 10th on that overall list, with stock assets reportedly reaching into the trillions of won. So if BTS members, who are, after all, just singers and not company founders, can make it into the top 100 wealthiest young shareholders in all of South Korea, that says a lot about the sheer scale of the business and valuation HYBE has built as a global entertainment company. This is also solid proof that the K-pop industry, especially through BTS, has transformed into a serious economic force. It's no longer just about chart rankings or album sales. It's now reaching into corporate ownership and the stock market itself. If we think about this a little deeper, this achievement actually carries a bigger meaning than just, wow, Jimin is rich. This is real proof of how all 7 BTS members, Jimin included, aren't just seen as the face or the voice of a music group, but also as part of the foundation that helped build HYBE from the ground up. Bang Si-hyuk's decision to gift shares to the members back in 2020 was itself a form of acknowledgement that BTS's success is a collective success, not something that belongs to the agency alone. And for Jimin personally, this adds another layer to his public image. We've always known him as a graceful dancer, a singer with a distinctly emotional voice, and someone known for staying humble in front of the camera. But behind all of that, it turns out he also has the understanding and the courage to make long-term financial decisions, choosing not to rush into selling his assets, even if there might have been temptation to cash out along the way. This is actually an interesting lesson for all of us watching this video. Sometimes the patience to hold on to an asset is exactly what pays off the most in the long run, rather than giving in to the temptation of a quick profit. On top of that, this moment comes at a pretty fitting time too, since many fans have been eagerly awaiting BTS's full group comeback. With rumors of a new album release and a world tour on the horizon, this is likely to push HYBE's stock performance even further, which would, of course, keep adding to the members' growing wealth. So there you have it, the fascinating story behind a headline that probably caught a lot of people off guard. Jimin, along with V and Jungkook, officially made it onto the list of the top 100 individual shareholders in South Korea for the under 30 category, each holding HYBE shares worth around 250 billion rupiah. This proves that BTS's success is truly multidimensional. They're not just global pop culture icons, they're also some of the most financially successful young people in their own country. So what do you think? Does this make you even more proud of BTS's achievements? Or does it make you rethink how you might build your own wealth through long-term investing, the way Jimin, V, and Jungkook did? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoy content like this, interesting facts about the K-pop world that don't often get talked about, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any future updates. See you in the next video, and as always, stay curious, stay updated.